Hey guys, WormRacer08 bringing you another jQuery tutorial. Hey, today's lesson, I'm going to show you how we can use the jQuery UI library in combination with the standard jQuery library to create some pretty neat, somewhat dynamic image caption overlays. So like if you have an image gallery or something on your website, or you've got some images that you'd like to show a neat effect when someone hovers over them, that's what we're going to learn today. So here's an example of what we're going to build. I've just built this page here with 4 images on it. When you hover over them, we'll get this cool caption effect that slides out and folds down. And we get some text in here that we grab dynamically based on the image's alt attribute. So when you hover over them, and we've put some stuff in here so that we don't get a bunch of overlays added on top of each other or on top of each other, so to prevent a queue buildup of the animation. Anyway, we're going to use the jQuery UI library, and this is the effect I'm using here, which is the fold effect, and we can demonstrate that. But there's a bunch of other ones that you can take a look at and see if you like better. I thought this one worked really well for this tutorial. And just the regular UI, the UI script, and then the UI library, the regular jQuery library, and just a few lines of code. You guys are going to love this one. It's very simple. Easy peasy. So let's get started. I'm going to close out this demo here and open up Dreamweaver. And I've already created the document that has the images, and let's just take a look at that. We don't have any JavaScript functionality right now, so I just want to show you where we're starting, or our baseline. Try to emulate maybe what you have on your website, some kind of just standard image gallery or display of images. And then you can see there's no functionality here. So we're going to need the jQuery library and the jQuery UI library, and we're going to need to include those in our document. So let's jump over to Google's Libraries API, and you can see here's the URL for this. And we're going to grab this path under the jQuery and this path under the jQuery UI, and we're going to put those in our document so that we have some jQuery functionality that we can use. So I'm just going to copy that. Oops, I didn't mean to open Word. Let's see here. Get back into Dreamweaver, and right before the closing body tag, we're going to say insert HTML script object script. We're going to paste that URL right here. And we're going to remove the S from the protocol because we don't need a secure connection. Hit OK. Alright, now let's grab the UI library. Same thing, we're going to copy this, Control C, and insert HTML script object script, and paste that in here. And again, we're going to remove the S from the protocol. We don't need it, and hit OK. Now let's go ahead and insert another script tag that's going to hold our jQuery code that we're going to write to make these overlays happen. And we'll just leave all this blank and hit enter or OK. I'm going to remove that blank line, and now we're set up. So let's talk about these first, the images first, because what I've done here is I've wrapped these elements in a div called with a class of photo, and so they all are in divs with a class of photo. And I did that for a couple reasons. One, I wanted to apply some styling to the div that's holding that, so that it produced this nice border around the image. But secondly, and probably most importantly, is because I'm going to use this handle in the jQuery to control the hover events. So if you've already got your images on your page or whatever in another gallery or something, you can just apply a class. I assume you have them wrapped in something. You can just apply a class to the wrapper element a photo or whatever you want to use, and this will still work just fine. So let's see here. You might see all this styling here. The only styling that we're going to be concerned with in this tutorial, because this other stuff is just styling for the way I have my images laid out, is this style right here, this caption style. And this style is going to apply to a div that we're going to dynamically write to the document object model. And that div is the one that actually holds the overlay and is going to hold the text that's going to be put in that overlay. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and finish getting our JavaScript set up. So we've got our script tag. Now we need to get our document.ready. So we're going to use the jQuery alias and document.ready, and in that we have an anonymous function. Opening brace, skip down, closing brace, closing parenthesis, and our semicolon. Now, our document, when our document is loaded and ready to go, we're ready to do some jQuery stuff. Well, one of the things we're going to need to do is determine whether or not the overlay animation is happening. Normally, I would say we will use jQuery stop method, but it doesn't work. It only works on the animate method. We're not going to use animate. We're just going to use a simple show method and pass to it the UI fold effect. So we can't use stop. It won't prevent the queuing of these overlays, and so you could potentially get a whole bunch. If someone was to mouse over and mouse out real fast, you'd get a whole bunch added to the picture, and it just doesn't look right. So let's create a variable here, and we're going to call it animating, and we're going to set it to false. And then we'll check against that variable, and if it's false, then we'll add the overlay to the image. But if it's true, well, if it's true, it won't actually add the animating event on mouse over again. So we'll end up with just one animation. The only downside to that is, as you can see here, if we mouse over this image, let me refresh this. If we mouse over this, oh, sorry, this is the old one. Let's go look at the demo again here. Alright, if we mouse over this image, while it's happening, we mouse over that one, it goes away. It doesn't, this one doesn't actually get animated either. So the only downside of this is if this one's animating and we come off of it, the other one has to completely finish before we can animate another one. So it's good and bad. You may find another workaround. Anyway, I didn't want to waste any more time on that. So let's get back in here to Dreamweaver. Okay, so we've got our animating variable that we're going to check against before we animate those divs. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the elements with a class of photo. And that's where these wrapper elements come in that I talked about earlier, where I've wrapped all these images in a div with the class of photo. And this is how we're going to determine which image we've rolled over. So this element with the class of photo, we're going to use jQuery's hover function. Opening parenthesis, and let's go ahead and skip down here. And the hover function takes two events, a mouse enter and a mouse leave. So this is going to be our mouse enter event. So on this, what we're going to do here, it takes two anonymous functions. So the first one, the opening brace, we'll skip down and we'll close that off. We'll come back inside this function, and in this function we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to get the text from the alt attribute of the image. So whatever text you want to be displayed in the caption overlay, we'll just put here in this alt attribute. Sorry, I can't speak today. Then we're also going to create an element that we're going to insert into the div. So let's get our text. We're going to use a variable called text, and this is going to be equal to jQuery, and we're going to use the keyword of this, and this refers to the image that has been rolled over in that context. And we're going to say the children of that image, and we're going to grab the image, we're going to grab the children of whichever element with the class of photo. This refers to which element that we're currently rolled over with the class of photo. We're going to grab its children with the element tag of image, and then we're going to grab that image's attribute of the alt, and this will be stored in this variable text. So when we mouse over one of these divs with a class of photo, it's going to get its child, even though the method is children, it's going to get its child of image, and it's going to grab the text from within the attribute of alt. Great, so now we have our text. Now let's create our div that we're going to insert. That's going to hold our background and the text. So we'll create another variable, and I'm just going to call it caption. We'll make it equal to jQuery. We're going to create our element here. So we're going to create a div with a class equal to caption. And then we're going to insert within that div element. So we've closed off our opening and closing quotes. We're going to plus our variable of text plus opening quote, our closing div tag. Let me go ahead and put this in quotes. Dreamweaver does not like this, so let's see here, div. Okay. There we go. Our closing div tag, our closing parentheses, and a semicolon. And so what we've done here is we've stored a div with the class of caption in this variable called caption. And this is the class here that I was telling you about earlier. And it's mostly just styling. A couple important things. We need the width to be 100% so that it covers the image completely. You can play with the height, make it whatever you want. To get this, well, we're not going to be able to see it here because we don't have the demo. To get that overlaid transparent image, what I did was I just went into Fireworks and I created a 5 pixel by 5 pixel transparent PNG file that was black at like I think about 30% opacity, and we use that as the background image and repeat it across the X and Y axes, and that will fill the entire background with your transparent image. The position needs to be relative, and then you can align it where you want. I've aligned mine at the bottom of the image so that when it comes in, it's at the bottom. You could actually make it cover the entire image if you wanted. And then just I aligned the text center and made the color white. So nothing, the position relative is very important, and this background image is important if you want the overlay effect. So anyway, we've created this div with this class of caption. Well, now we're going to check and see, make sure that there's not an animation already occurring. So we're going to say if we'll use the not operator, which is the exclamation point. If our variable that we created in the beginning of animating, if it's not animating, so if it's equal to false, if it evaluates to false, which we originally set it to false, then what are we going to do? Well, this is exactly what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do, let's skip down here and close our braces. First thing we're going to do is set our variable of animating to true, so we don't get any more events to happen. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to say jQuery. Our variable of caption, which if you remember is actually an element that we're going to insert into the DOM. This element of caption, let's append to this, which this in this context again is the div with the class of photo, whichever one we've rolled over. Dot, we're going to hide that thing. When we append it, we want it to be hidden immediately so that we can create a nice effect and fade it in. Well, actually we're not going to fade it in, we're going to fold it in. So hide dot show, and here's where we pass our UI element in, and that the effect I'm using is called fold, so we put that in quotes, F-O-L-D, and we use a second parameter of how fast you want it to happen. We're going to say 500 milliseconds, and that's it for the mouse enter event. That's it for the mouse enter event. So let's file save. I don't think this will run because the hover I think requires 2 events, but let's just take a look and see what happens. So we'll refresh the page here. Yeah, nothing happens. So let's go ahead and do our mouse leave event. So right here in this closing bracket from our first anonymous function, which is the mouse enter, we need a comma. And we'll skip to the next line, and this is going to be our mouse leave event. Alright, and it takes another anonymous function, opening brace, skip down a couple lines, closing brace. And in that, what are we going to do? Well, we need to remove the caption from the DOM. Well, first we want to fold it and hide it back away, and then we need to remove the actual element from the DOM so that it's no longer part of the document. So we will say jQuery, the element with the class of caption, which you remember this is what we created here, an element with the class of caption, and here we've appended it to whatever div we've rolled over that holds our image. Let's hide that, and again we're going to pass our UI effect of fold in to the hide. We're going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen just 100 milliseconds quicker, 400 milliseconds, and then we're going to have a third argument for our hide function that is a callback. What we want to happen after the animation is over, and that's where we're going to we're going to reset our animating variable back to false, and we're also going to remove this appended element from the document. So what we do here is an anonymous function, opening brace, we'll skip down a couple lines, closing brace, and tab over one time. We're going to say jQuery this, which refers to this whatever it's this context of the element of dot caption. Okay, so this dot remove. All right, and let's set our animating variable back to false. All right, and this is done here. We need to close this opening parentheses on the hide method. We'll skip down, closing parenthesis, semicolon. Let me tab this over just a bit. Let's see here. Tab that over. Okay, we've closed this. Closing parenthesis and semicolon is for the hide function. This closes our mouse leave function. Then we have one more thing to close here, which is our opening brace for the hover function right here, or not brace but parenthesis. We need to close that right here. So we will close it and a semicolon. And we're going to save this document, and let's go back into Internet Explorer and see what we have. Should be good to go. Look at that. And you see the text is being dynamically generated from the alt attribute that you have in your image tag. And you could change that to use the title attribute or a rel attribute, any attribute you wanted. Alt just seems to make sense to me because you should use an alt text anyway to stay compliant for the W3C and for people who use screen readers and whatnot. But that's it. Told you, very simple. Not much code here at all. And you end up with some pretty nice animated image captions with very little work. So hope you guys like this one. The demo is available. I'll put that in the video description. And I'll see you guys next time.